Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Connect Cape Fear podcast, a place where travelers, newcomers, and locals come to find connection and community in this beautiful place that we call home. I am your host, Rob Rens with Signal Fire Media. Our guest today is Maggie Levy with 7Pillars Bookkeeping Solutions. Maggie, how are you on this beautiful Wilmington, North Carolina day?
I am fantastic and thankful to be here.
Good. We're super glad to have you. Let's start with how you got to Wilmington.
Okay, so we got here about the end of July, beginning of August of 2023.
Okay.
It was a 5-year plan. We are originally from upstate New York in Syracuse. And just being able to my husband has family here. We're looking to do some financial goals, and you can actually get more for less in North Carolina.
I've heard that from a lot of Northeasters.
Yeah. So it's an opportunity for us to reach our financial goals a little quicker. And of course, have 3 beaches, within 30 minutes is always a bonus.
Yeah. We've met a ton of people that have come from New York, the rest of the Northeast. The halfback thing is real. Are you familiar with that? Retirees,
Yes.
They call them halfbacks. They go to Florida, it's too hot in Florida, and then they come halfway back and they settle in North Carolina. So we've had a big boom of people coming from that part of the country. What was it specifically about Wilmington and North Carolina that y'all like so much?
I think for me, I lived in Florida for about 5 years, so I had a taste of the South. And so my husband's originally from New York City. I grew up in Syracuse, so we're a blended family. So when we got married, it was like, okay, do we want to stay in New York? We both had the South, and we're like, no. And so we put a plan together, and it was really between Florida, Georgia, and Wilmington.
Okay.
And so he had a portion of his childhood. He grew up in Wilmington. And so we were just led more, to come to Wilmington. And then when I came to visit, I stayed 8 days. He was kind of already working here to kind of establish some work credibility before the family came. And I just fell in love with it. I got to learn the school system. So we got boys in school as well, too. And just the people, it kind of still feels like that small town feel.
Yeah.
Even though it's like booming and growth.
Yeah.
And we were led here and we had peace about coming.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, it's a great area, great community. We love it here. It's funny. We came from a big city too, not as big as New York City, but Atlanta, Metro Atlanta area. And every time we go back there, it's like we realize exactly why we came here and when we came here, because the lifestyle is just unmatched from any other places in the United States that we've been. You've got the beach, you've got the downtown area. It's a great place to start a small business or to be in business, and then our kids love it here. So hopefully you're experiencing all of that, and you're coming up on a year living here, right? You said
Just
July,
about.
just
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
What's the first year been like being in transition from New York to North Carolina?
For me, it's been fabulous. I think for everybody else, it was a work in progress. I have a high schooler and then a middle schooler, and he's just started 9th grade. So again, the timing, was great because I really wanted him to be like, hey, if we're going to move, stay at one high school, all 4 years, that kind of thing. So it took some time. They got buddies, back home, but they stay in contact. And really, I think it was just involving the family in the move, not just, okay, me and my husband, this is what we're going to do. So I showed them videos. We got on YouTube. What is Wilmington like? What are some things? And so it kind of, they started warming up to it. So now, I actually asked them recently. So now they're good. And my mom is with us as well, too, and the dog. So there's 6 people in the house. So you can only imagine.
Yeah.
And so they like it.
Good.
The beach is always, we're a beach family.
Yeah.
So, that helps out. They're meeting new friends. My high schoolers in football at Laney. So that's a lot of fun, as well, too.
Nice.
So I think now they're like, okay, we're good with your decision.
We're settled in.
Yeah.
We're happy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah,
right. It's never a good idea when mom or dad suggests something until they get there and they're like, oh, this is a great idea. Why didn't we do this 5 years ago?
You got it.
Love
You
it.
got it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, you are a CFO.
Yes.
And a CEO, you said. You have a bookkeeping business.
Yes.
So you run the business, and you're working on the business and working in the business.
Yes.
Plug here. When I started my first small business here, didn't get a bookkeeper. Worst mistake of my life. Should have led with having a bookkeeper. Can you tell us three, four, five different reasons on why having a bookkeeper is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. One is time. That's really the main focus that I really talk to my clients anytime I have a consultation or just someone that's asking. Because really, most business owners are spending 5 to 10 hours a week, you know what I'm saying, on their bookkeeping. That time is potential revenue that you're losing. So, example, you spend 5 hours, hour in a day, 1 hour a day, and you make $200 an hour. That's a potential of $1,000 a week, right? $4,000 a month that you're potentially losing in revenue because you could redirect your time. And I don't really believe in the sense of gaining back because we all have 24 hours. It's just how we use it. So I always encourage them, you can redirect that time back into your business, whether it's marketing or, have to work in the floor, in the field, whatever the case may be, another job, for the contractors, things like that. So one is time. Two is definitely getting accounting software. So I know I'm a QuickBooks Pro advisor, so I'm always going to recommend that, but I am familiar with a couple other softwares that are good, or even if you have your own, I'm always able to kind of jump in and be able to work with you, but that accounting software has got to be your one-stop shop. And so QuickBooks has done a great job. They've advanced over the years for all types of industries to at least say, hey, let me put my revenue in, let me put my expenses, let me look at one report, let me put my payroll in and see how is the business doing. Okay. Three, why we need a bookkeeper, is really just finding I would say a niche bookkeeper. I found that I do help all businesses. That's my industry, but I have a specialty in contractors, construction, and restaurants. And so a jack of all trades bookkeeper, they're good. There's a whole bunch of us out there. But I believe that finding the niche bookkeeper is going to know your industry just a little bit more than just a basic bookkeeper. I'm big on continuing education. I'm part of a couple mentorships, specifically a bookkeeping one and a CFO one, because the industry is always changing, in those areas. And so if I can tune in more, into the restaurant world, which I do, I have some great restaurant pros, that I follow there, or contractors. I'm going to help you bring some insight on some things that maybe you didn't realize, you know what I mean, that you're not doing and why it's important for you to do it.
Yeah.
So niche bookkeeper, and if I had to think of one more, I would just say to stay organized.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For the most part, a lot of times you're on the go. And being able to have that some financial person to kind of tap in to help you stay organized is just one more thing off your plate.
Yeah, I had a great piece of advice that was given to me when I finally decided to do it. Because, I think a lot of times when you're getting into small business for yourself and you're an entrepreneur, you're like, I'm going to bootstrap it as far as I possibly can. And then, you get to that point where you're like, I want to scale past where I'm at. And behind you is a wake of disorganization because, to your point, like the business owner's most valuable high level activity is going to be to go out and find new customers and generate more revenue and build your team and build your systems and build your processes, and things like coding expenses will fall by the wayside. And then at the end of the year, I know this was at least for me, I'd find myself like going through 12 months of expenses before tax season, like trying to get everything right. And I know that there was money left on the table. I know that there was probably potentially stuff that I missed, but just the getting organized from the moment that you get started, I think there's huge value in that.
Absolutely.
Is that what your experience has been with the clients and customers that you work with?
Yeah, I would say all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's either they were doing it themselves for X amount of time, and most, I would say about half of the clients were either doing it for like a year and a half already on their own before they reached out to me, or they didn't even have any QuickBooks in place. They might have been doing it on a Word document or just adding it up on paper.
An Excel
and
spreadsheet.
things like that. Yeah.
Here's all my receipts. Can you do something
it.
with this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't, of course I won't say any names, but I have a contractor, construction business, concrete, and 15 years in business, very well known, in the industry, and they're awesome. They're one of my favorites. But they didn't have QuickBooks in
Yeah.
the sense of being able to put everything in one stop shop. They had the payroll piece, but not the, hey, we need to see more things on paper. And I see that more in the contractors construction. Those guys are awesome. I mean, thank you guys for your service, because to go out there every day building roads and construction and
Yeah.
structures and everything, they just write it down on a piece of paper. That's all the time they got. Okay, here's the quote, here's this, here's
Yeah.
that. And maybe they might make a copy and add them all up, but having some electronic software would really maximize their business.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny. We're developing a piece of property that my wife and I bought and building a house on it. And our GC is amazing. He's done an incredible job.
Nice.
Is building a beautiful house. But a lot of the times it's like that. It's like, invoice time comes in and we get a notepad, with some math written out on it and invoices there in a scanned document and
There you go.
whatnot. And it works for him. I guess it works for us too as well, because we keep paying them whenever they
Yeah.
come in, because we got to, because
Yeah.
we'd really like to live in that house at some point.
Nice.
But yeah, it's difficult for people in the trades and in construction and whatnot, because their craft is out there building and doing, and they work from the time that the sun comes up till the time that the sun goes down. So putting like a team of people in place, whether it's your risk advisor, your financial planner, your bookkeeper, your attorney, like a great piece of advice I got from a friend of mine in town was like, he's a certified financial planner. And he was like, Rob, every time I spend a second doing things that are not planning for my clients, I'm taking away from my expertise. So I want to put people around me that are experts in what it is that they do, so I can rest peacefully at night knowing all the other things are being handled right now, and I can just go out and do what it is that I'm really good at. And even if it's not, generate like getting new clients, it's that research, it's becoming a student of your own game and perfecting your craft. Like, just because you're not out hunting for new business doesn't mean that you're not getting better at what it is that you do. And like you said, 5 hours a week, that's all it could be. And that adds up to a lot of time over a year and a decade and a lifetime.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. 20 to 40 hours a month if you're
Yeah.
doing 5 to 10, for the most part. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You hit it right in the head.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so the trades, contractors, restaurants, those are kind of who you specialize in. What would you say, in your experience, is something that if, a restaurateur is listening right now, like a piece of advice that you could give them? So we do have a lot of new restaurants that are coming to town. It's funny. There's so many people that are moving here. The residential is not quite yet keeping up with the commercial. Well, the residential is outpacing, rather, I should say, the commercial. We see a lot of commercial coming in too as well. So, if somebody is watching this and they're like, Wilmington's been on my list of places to open a restaurant, what would you recommend to them?
Yeah, absolutely. First, come on in. You're absolutely right. I'm part of a BNI group, and there was someone that did a real estate kind of a presentation, and they were sharing some statistics. And where some other states are kind of finding that commercial decline, Wilmington has that commercial like booming going on. So it's not really happening in the decline here. So I would recommend advice. Two things for the restaurant owners and food vendors. The food trucks, right? Your bakeries, your pizza shops, anything food is two things. One, finding a bookkeeper, such as myself, or someone that understands prime cost. So prime cost is pretty much what's called a direct cost. It's taking your cost of goods sold, right? Everything that they purchase in order to sell, and also their payroll cost, everything from wages, payroll taxes, fees, and kind of putting that at the top of your income statement. And so the industry prime cost should be about 55 to 65%. And it's your we could say your first the two biggest expenses that are going to be in your business. And so if your prime cost is 60%, we'll say that means you really should have about 30% expenses, right? And that 10% should really be like your gross profit margin. So a lot of restaurants and food vendors don't realize what prime cost is and how vital it is in the restaurant
Yeah.
industry because it's changing. You know what I'm saying? Cost of goods are kind of steady, but in some areas it's still rising, maybe for peak times, right? And then
Right.
it goes down. The second thing is budgets. Budgets are not as common, in the food industry, and that really should be the number one place where it should be happening because their costs are changing on a monthly or even weekly basis. Having someone that can sit down and structure a budget with you at the end of the year and be able to kind of help you manage it weekly.
Yeah.
That's what I currently do with my clients. Well, a couple right now. Is vital because now you can say, okay, this is our sales goal, you know what I'm saying, which is great. And then they kind of have specials or whatever they're going to do to hit that. And then I can bring some insight, as well to what to do. But now I'm going to help you manage that cost on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
I'm helping you with the payroll. Now we have an idea what that looks like. I'm going to give you an idea what's to come. And then a cash. Cash flow in the food industry is king,
Yeah.
for the most part. So let's take a look at your cash flow statement, or just the cash flow in general and see, okay, now you have a nice net profit. We got that 10%, but what's the actual cash that you're touching coming through the business? Do you have any loans that you're paying on? Any owner's draw, things like that. And then when you subtract that out, that'll really tell you how much cash is available for the business.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
those top two things.
Super vital, especially like you mentioned in a really weird economic environment. Labor costs are all over the place. Cost of goods is all over the place. Sometimes they can change week to week. Having somebody that's like actively looking at all that stuff and planning and making recommendations. I know I could have benefited from it because it was like, I looked at the top line and I was like, how do we push this up? Okay, let's more marketing, more people, like put cash into areas that will be revenue generators. But then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm way upside down in a lot of this stuff. And you look at it at the beginning of the year, you're like, here's my sales forecast. And if you don't check on it throughout the year, you're gonna have no idea if you're actually gonna be profitable or not.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned doing mentorships. Who are some people or groups that you do mentorships for?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have two people on staff.
Okay.
So I have a young lady, she's a senior bookkeeper, and I do mentor her, which was really just a really awesome, divine, way that we connected. And so she started her own bookkeeping business and asked me to mentor her in return, wanting to work for me because I was looking for someone to hire. So I was like, wow, this is awesome. So she is just phenomenal and been with me over a year. So far as mentorships I'm a part of, so there's an awesome mentorship called Booming Bookkeeping Business. So he is awesome. He's actually helped over 8,000 bookkeepers
Oh, wow.
start their own bookkeeping business. So if somebody was even interested in doing their own business, didn't know nothing about it, or if you're an experienced bookkeeper, that's a mentorship where, I did bookkeeping for all types of businesses, for the trucking and trailer and accounting manager, everything. But running my own business is a little different.
Yeah.
So, I do live coaching calls, everything. And it's neat because if I get stuck on something, because it happens, I have a group or a team I can go to say, hey, listen, I haven't seen this in a client, or an industry, can I get some insight on that? And then same thing on the CFO side. So I'm part of a CFO mentorship called CFO Advisory Academy. And so kind of same thing, you know what I'm saying? That person has also trained numerous CFOs into that industry. Hey, if you want to help be an advisor.
Yeah.
And so same thing. If I find myself in a situation, I can go to a team and say, hey, can you give me some insight on that so I can better help my clients as well?
Yeah. I love it. One of the things we talk about a lot on this podcast and last couple minutes that we have together, nonprofits, community organizations, things that you really like to get involved in. I know you haven't even been here a year, so you might not have been able to really like find a place to hang your hat. But are there areas where you like to serve and places where you're able to give back through your business and whatnot? You want to shout out some of those because we've highlighted a lot of them and ones that I've never heard of before. So it's always good to know like who's doing what for a local community and whatnot. So are there any that you've started working with yet?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I'm big on just getting out and networking and being able to connect with, places where I can bring value and just help. So one, I just started jumping into the Cape Fear Habitat for
Yeah.
Humanity.
Yeah.
So awesome team, Lauren, you're awesome. So I'm connecting more. I actually did a volunteer work with United Community Bank. They had a build a couple weeks ago, so I went out there and
Nice.
be able to physically help. So I'm looking to meet with them and just see, I can bring other people. My kids like that kind of stuff too, so I can bring them along and kind of, show
Go
them
paint
how
that
to give
wall.
others.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. Do some landscaping,
Yeah.
mow the lawn. And then the second one is Genesis Blanc.
Oh, yeah.
So I met
Yeah,
with
Tracy and
Jared
Gerard,
Coleman. Dude, you're awesome. From
Yeah.
the college,
Yeah.
director of the Small Business Center. Great man of wisdom and insight. So I took like a page and a half of notes, and I'm like, okay. So he mentioned to me Genesis Blanc. I have to get down there.
Yeah.
But on the restaurant side, I like to get connected, even if it's just to do a 1 hour, workshop to educate, I'm saying, the new food vendors
Yeah.
coming in. What are some things they can kind of start doing now to be able to help, I'm saying, on the bookkeeping side and just keeping track, of those things as well too.
Yeah,
So,
those are some great resources that we have in our town. Jerry from Cape Fear Community College, you mentioned Tracy and Gerard Newkirk from Genesis Block doing tons of things in our community. It's like every time I open a newspaper, it's like there they are again. It's
yeah,
just
it's
amazing
nice.
the bandwidth and the energy that they have for Wilmington. So
Yeah.
Maggie, this is a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. I wish you nothing but the best of luck here in Wilmington. Where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you? They want to learn more about your services and what's the best place for people to get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best place to contact me is at my website. So www.viipillersllc.com, or all social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. You can tag me there and be able to find more of my contact info.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks
Yeah.
for joining us.
All right, awesome. Been a pleasure.
Yeah, had a great conversation with you. Thank you so much. That's going to do it for this episode of the Connect Cape Fear podcast. Until next time, go out and enjoy this beautiful place that we call home, connect with great people, and enjoy all the things that we have to offer here in the Cape Fear region. And we look forward to talking to you next time.